Hello and welcome to Stop Now Experiment Lab, the daily show with JK. I'm JK, your host, and I'm joined by Walter. Walter has become a co-host, almost. This is the third day. Again, welcome, Walter. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you today?
Yes, I am good and got excited. We had like a very good interview just before we started this. So I had to talk about it. Without that, it won't make sense. And it's the big company. We were targeting Apple and Google, and that happened. This was a Google interview. And as I said, right, I will play the interview as well, glimpse to our audience. And for our YouTube channel members, we will provide the full interview as well.
That sounds good.
So are you surprised like what's going on behind the scene, or you are excited to see the interview, like how things are being done here?
I'm not. They those companies of that side definitely have PR teams where they send out to say certain things. So I'm interested to see how they phrase things and what they had to say about, I guess, their interactions. I'm guessing that would be about the H-1B visa. So interested to see what they have to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So the minute like you brought that up, right, we can continue the conversation from yesterday, right? We played the video of one of the victims' case where clearly the employer was violating it, like asking him money, and he was kind of forthcoming and risking it like by recording the conversation and then providing that like to the authorities, saying that like this is what is happening, can you help me out? That's how the story goes on, right? Even for me it is a breaking thing, right? Let's talk about that. So what is your take on that? Like, let me ask you.
It feels like a form of extortion because the visa is supposed to be something you do to come here to work, not be extorted and being pretty much basically say this is some kind of rent where you pay the company that's sponsoring the visa and they not pay you, but you pay them. That's not exactly how that's supposed to work. So that's definitely in violation of everything, and that should definitely not be allowed to happen. And I definitely hope the attorneys looking into that definitely push forward with whatever company was doing that, because that's just not how that's supposed to work at all.
Yes, we all know that, right? So this is wrong, and absolutely this has to stop, and people cannot continue to do that. We can talk about those things, but ground reality is, what do the people who want to protest against these kind of practices do, right? The steps as an individual, right? For example, if I am faced with that, I'm trying to put myself in that, right, in their shoes and see like how I can walk this. The reason why I bring that up is the only course, even when we talk to the lawyers, the attorneys like easily say this, right? You go and make a complaint to Department of Labor. That is your only course of action you have to do. And that's exactly what we did, right? In this case, we asked the victim, like, have you done that? And he replied, right? He said, like, do I look like stupid? So I did that. And the Department of Labor doesn't care. They don't do anything. These are billion-dollar companies. They don't do it. He went ahead and he even filed a national origin, race, and discrimination kind of thing with the Department of Justice. They just come back and say like, oh, you are on a visa, so you cannot be handled by us. So this comes under Department of Labor, only they can help you. So who's going to stop the crime, right? This is a crime, right? Somebody is threatening you to withdraw your visa if you go and complain or report, and unless you pay the money, like you cannot stay on their company sponsored visa. So what option am I left with?
I mean, and that in cases like that has kind of happened with the Dakota Access Pipeline. It's no one cares until enough people are looking at it, and it's in the media's attention enough. It's in the public conscious enough to where then if you don't act anything, if an organization within the government doesn't act, you look complicit in that, and then that kind of forces an act. Or acknowledgement of what is going on. So I think that's kind of where it comes into play. It's got to get enough people that are focused and care enough about it to and what I think a lot of activist groups kind of, I think they make a mistake or they do this whole decentralized organization type of a thing, and then they become splintered and different people say this thing and different people do that thing, rather than having a set structure of this is how it's going to work. This is coming from our organization, and this is how we'll be able to control the narrative, because if it comes outside of this what we have, this organizational structure, then it's not from us. And a decentralized structure, anyone can say anything and say they're a part of it, and then it becomes a gigantic mess. So I think that's kind of where it comes to now, is to get it in a public conscious, be like, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. We need to do something about it. This is what happens when you go to the Department of Labor. This is what happens when you go to the Department of Justice. We have evidence of this is happening and violating of these laws, and having teams of lawyers and different labor organizations that are working with it and work with you on that, then they will be able to get enough attention and using all these things that you can leverage, or that social media, getting things out there from in outlets that would already cover it. And I mean, it's just about getting enough attention and enough eyeballs on it that where it becomes impossible to really ignore. Is that the easiest way? Should there be that many steps involved? No, it should be, you go to the Department of Labor, they see, oh yeah, this is obvious violation of the visa and shouldn't have to pay this at all. That's almost like some kind of extortion type of a deal, and they put it into it, but it's not always going to be that easy. I mean, you can get involved with dark money being in politics, and a lot of companies, a lot of big corporations pumping that kind of money into politics as to reasons why they wouldn't want to go crack down on big groups doing that. So I mean that is one way of getting it out in the public conscious enough to where it's impossible to just pretty much just turn your shoulders to it and pretend it doesn't exist.
So again, to continue on that story, right? So again, this is something we can sympathize, we can talk about it, but my problem is, if I am faced with that, what choices do I make? And that's the reason, like, I believe that people are not willing to come forward and put this out, right? The simple example here in this case is, even after reporting to the Department of Labor, they said, like, have you worked for them from what period to what period? And we will ask them that there has been a complaint filed on your company, and if they have not paid you, we will ask them to pay you. That's all we can do. We are not a prosecuting agency, right? Department of Labor doesn't have the power like to put anybody in jail, right? So do you see the irony here, right? The person who makes a complaint on his employer will lose his visa status and he will become an illegal. what he is supposed to do, right? So I become an illegal, right? I lose my visa. So how will I make a complaint on somebody else, like if I am going to become an illegal? Right? If I make a complaint, I should be prepared to exit the country. Once I exit the country, how do I seek justice?
I mean, that's the one thing is, I mean, undocumented individuals still have, I mean, they would, what I would say, like, there's gotta be a way to go through legal route, whether it's a lawsuit before it even gets to that, because I mean, there are lawyers who work on issues like that, and if you can get lawyers working on that, then that's kind of where it comes to, because you can get it in the systems, and not even if they pull your visa and then a situation's already ongoing, then that can get that process going, because I mean that's the one way it's getting changed for that type of issue. I mean, the best way to get change is getting it a bill passed and put into law through Congress. But I mean, that's going to be hard right now, because I mean, it looks like the next 2 years are going to be a split chamber after the elections last night. It looks like it's going to be looking in that direction. But the other way is going through the legal route, whether it's a civil lawsuit like we spoke about, I believe, on Monday. I mean, it's very difficult, but I mean, the one thing that I do say in situations like this, if you do nothing, then you're just going to keep being abused, and nothing's going to change. Which, I mean, that's happening in various aspects of labor around the country. So I mean, if you do nothing, nothing's going to change. So you have to. I mean, I guess they would, you know, it'd be an organization like Stop Now trying to get people like that are going through this in contact with the lawyers who are going to work on that and getting the message out there immediately. Like, this is happening right now. We need to get it. Let's focus attention on that and getting that to the labor organizations labor organizations and unions who can get messages out there about this is what's happening. We can't allow this to happen, because it's going to take a collaborative team effort from all 50 states to get a big change like that. So I think it's something you have to go forward and get something done, or it's just not going to change at all.
Yes, I do agree, right? So what you're coming at, but I'm looking at the individual's point of view, right? So why it's like choosing between the devils, right? Even the government or the agencies are worse, the attorneys, right? Even if I have to hire an attorney to fight and stay back, they charge you like minimum $10,000, a retainer fee or whatever your case you're bringing in. And the person said the same story. Right? I went to attorneys, I tried, and I told them my entire story. And you know what they said? You better take side with the employers. You can't do anything with this. It's a bigger fight. Do you want to become a hero? It's not possible for one man to change unless you are ready to spend $30,000-$40,000 to fight the case against $1 million company, because they do have like attorneys and law firms in their side, and they will drag this case as much. Till then, like, you will be illegal, you will not get employment. We can apply for a T visa, U visa, and all those things can take years for you to get that. It will be on backlog, and you will be stuck. You will not be able to travel outside of this country. So many restrictions will come up, right? So why do you like fight with your employer? Find a better employer. You are a graduate and you are a smart person. You have traveled thousands of miles, right? Moved from one country, from other side of the world to here. Why do you have like to struggle, right? If you don't like, if they don't like, quit the job, move back to your country, or pick a different employer who can sponsor you and treat you well. This is the solution the attorneys are giving, right? So again, they don't want like to take up the case, right? It's not something like anyone is willing to help, right? So that you just go file a complaint with Department of Labor, Department of Justice, or even to the FBI. he has gone crazy. I don't know why he did that. He said like, I complained to FBI, I even wrote to White House. Everybody is like kind of shutting down and not doing anything. And the minute the employer finds this out, they withdraw their petition and say like, you're fired, like you go and do your own thing, right? We have nothing to do with you. It's that simple. They are challenging, right? Actually, what he said was like, they openly challenged it, saying that if you have that power or you think that like you can take us down, go make complaint to anyone or even sue us or file a complaint on us. You cannot do anything. So in that case, what anyone can do, right? Even as a citizen, right? As a citizen, I can think of, right, even if I am a citizen and they have harassed me and fired me from the job, it's not that easy to get a lawyer or file a case against billion-dollar companies. Right? Just forget about billion-dollar companies. Like these are small body shopping companies that we are dealing with, where they have less than 20, 30 employees or even less than 100 employees. Even to attack those companies or take them to the court, it's tough. And your solution is right. You said like we can approach these type of organization. That's where like we support the victims. Like we wanted to help them out and stop now. But in reality, what can we actually do? That's the big question. I am still not convinced getting a answer for that. So the people can come up, right? So they can show their face and say like, okay, I'm ready to make these, because everything, right? Anyone can accuse anyone. And that has to be proven in the court to get justice.
It sounds like for a company saying there's nothing you can do, it sounds like a classic domestic abusers type of mental manipulation, saying there's nothing you can do about it, no one's ever going to treat you better, and just keep doing that mental abuse that you can't do anything about this, so don't even try. Organizations like the ACLU are out there, and there's other organizations out there that are probably groups that I don't believe they actually, if they can fight a case, they don't believe they actually charge the person complaining. So I believe there are going to be groups out there that aren't going to ask you for $30,000, $40,000 up front. I mean, it would be identifying those groups, stop not working with those groups, basically saying these are the people that are going forward with this, and those groups helping, because that's what's going to change, because that's where the money comes into play. Like, well, we can just drag this out and make you go bankrupt while fighting this. Well, I mean, that could happen, but it's still, if you either paid them or you didn't pay them, and it finds out that you didn't pay them, you're going to have to pay them for the court fees and the money you owed them anyway, plus probably some suffering as well. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they want to do that and want to scare individuals because they think they'll just run away and not fight, so they can keep getting away with what they know is probably very illegal. I don't think any company is really naive enough to not believe that you're extorting someone for money and you're not paying them, that they're in the right. I mean, that's wrong. I mean, they know that, and anyone doing that knows that that's wrong. So I think that's where it is to kind of, because again, as I said before, it's like if you do nothing, nothing's going to change, and they're going to keep doing this to you, so, and to other people. And I think that's where it is, like trying to identify organizations that have ways to, if not just doing it pro bono, doing it for a lot cheaper than what it would cost you out of pocket by yourself. Identifying those groups, telling individuals who go forward that we can get you in contact with people from here, here, and here, and they can help you with this. And these different unions and other labor organizations will also help as well, so we can get a fight. I mean, I think that's kind of where the class action type of a thing would come into play, because if you have let's say 100 people in a class action, and then they name out all these different companies that they're all affected by it, they're all defendants in it, then that's going to create a gigantic mess for everyone in it, for all the companies involved, and it's going to cause a lot of bad PR for them as well if the case goes on. But they're going to try to, and that kind of a situation where they actually see someone's actually fighting, what these companies tend to want to do is try to settle out of court so things don't get unveiled, then they can steal everything. But if they see it through to the very end and all that comes out of the record and they're probably end up having to pay anyway, then that's going to become a horrific situation where you can then put that in front of politicians' faces and be like, this is what's happening. It's up to you to get this changed, and don't stop until you actually get it changed because this is not right. Well, that becomes a different challenge in the political realm of, again, the shape of Congress at the time of this happening, but it still can be a thing. Maybe, I mean, I don't even know. I would have to look into the Galileo, but maybe an executive order could take care of it or something like that. I don't know. Executive order privilege kind of has been pushed quite a bit recently, so it might be something that can. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things there that you can keep trying to do. I mean, it sounds impossible, but I mean, if Stop Now can point these people and get in, involve these relationships with these other corporate, other unions and organizations that care about labor, I do think that is the first step to actually giving people who are going through this
Yeah, well, I think I lost the last bit. Probably your audio was not clear.
I'm saying like yeah, that I think that's like groups like I think that's where Stop Now can come into play when they're getting there are relationships with different unions and labor groups as well, and lawyers that are keen on helping to give these individuals a glimmer of hope, and that they can come forward and have something done, because I think that's kind of where it starts, is building a team that will help these people fight these situations so they're not alone, because I think that's kind of what how it needs to be approached and done, kind of like a centralized type effort where it's like, this is coming from us, and these groups are they're working along with us, and then they're getting that message out there, and they're getting to different media outlets. And then I think it's end up going to court and sue them. I mean, like, sue the hell out of them. I mean, that's the one thing that will get attention, and they're going to try to settle out of court. But if it's taken all the way through the process and all this stuff goes in the bail in court, where it's shown that these different companies, if you have like 100 people coming forward, that these companies aren't paying them at all, and they're extorting money from people on the H-1B visa, then I think that's kind of where it comes out, and that's where it can be something that's where it can make change, because all that can be put in front of different committees in Congress and the Senate, and then I think that's kind of where we can start getting a groundswell of change to occur.
Yeah, absolutely right. So you are more on the positive side and providing the solution, how we can attack these and get a solution. But we are missing those links, right? Because I am not kind of making some wild allegation or conspiracy theory kind of thing. But we all know that like there is a heavy lobbying involved, right? Whichever the side of it. Every other big corporates are siding with this visa program, right? And the beauty is, like, I didn't know this, right? So this is also even a surprise to many of those citizens or those who are not experienced with this kind of visa. I feel that like this is kind of a trade that the agreement they made between the companies and the governments, right, to have this modern slaves kind of thing, like hanging in there with their, it's called a temporary work authorization. It's a temporary visa, they say, right? And why would they like tie this to green card? Because many people ask this question to me. I don't have answer for that. I think, like, Walter, if you are an expert, you can answer that. They ask this, like, does everyone on the H-1B visa end up with both either a green card or eventually become a US citizen? If not, right, what is the point in being there, like, in the country? Or it's like they are saying it's a 3 to 6 years or even 9 years, and they have to return back to the country. So what do you have to say to this, right? Because this is being tied to green card process. That's what my understanding, after 6 years, you have to go back to your country because it's a temporary visa. You cannot stay back. And if in case, right, within this 3 years period, even if you get fired and you don't have a job for 60 days, you have to leave the country. Otherwise, you will become illegal. So that is what like my understanding from the lawyers saying that like this is what the visa has been created by the Congress to exploit people from other countries.
I would have to look into the other researches, the exact specifics of it, but I do believe there. I mean, there are reasons why people would travel to work for a couple years or several years and then return back. I mean, whether they got a job here and they don't proceed. I mean, if you continue to get a job, I'm assuming you'd be able to renew it or something like that. I mean, I can see why you would want to. I mean, Americans do this as well in other places. They go to work in other countries and then they return back without becoming a citizen of that nation. So, I mean, I think on that merit, that does make sense. I believe. I mean, I would be shocked if there would be no way to extend that visa or get another visa that would be for a work visa or a permanent work visa or something like that. I would have to research that, but I don't think that takes away from if people or companies are using this to extort free labor. I guess my question would be kind of from what you've heard, why do people come over on the H-1B visa and stay if they when they're being exploited? Is there a specific reason as to why they deal with the extortion?
No, I mean the question mainly is, does everyone on that H-1B visa end up with green card or becoming a citizen?
I mean, I would doubt it. I mean, I would doubt everyone would.
Yes, exception, right? As you said, right? Some people are willing to explore, come and work here for a few years and go back. That's fine, right? We are not talking about exceptions, right? Some people are excited, exceptionally talented. They want like to try different things. They want to come. They are okay with that, and they can definitely use that visa. I have no objection to those things. But what the statistics and what the information we got from the research we made and from the stories we hear from the victims is, we come with a American dream, right? We come here through this visa to immigrate, and it has been clearly stated that those who are on H-1B visa, after 6 years, if your employer files for green card, right, that is permanent residency, we can continue to stay here till they get the permanent resident for that particular country. Based on the backlog, they issue that. And that is what like their contention is, right? So you are tying this to the green card process. That is the only reason like why we come through this visa. Otherwise, we will not. Because we know that like there are other ways and processes where people can be sponsored, or if they marry a US citizen or your relatives sponsor you, you can come on directly on the green card. That's a different story altogether. So this is exclusively for the employers, right? So just to boost the economy, hire the talented people from all over the world, this has been created. But why do they hold this to green card? I still don't understand. And it's the choice, right? Again, to answer a part of it, not everyone will like to become a US citizen. If they like this country, they might become a citizen. That's a different story altogether. And even I hear people, right, as a citizen, like they renounce the citizenship and they hate the country and they move out. That is also there. Like, few exceptions are there in that. And I read an article on that. Whether you know that in 2020, like there was like more than 1,000, 2,000 people like who renounced the citizenship. That was an amazing thing. I was surprised. Wow. Okay. There are 150 million people as per Gallup survey, right? All over the world, 150 million people willing to immigrate to US as the first option. When that is the case, there are certain exceptions where people who are US citizens, they are not proud of it and they want like to renounce their citizenship and get out of this country. That was a crazy story that I came across. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, 150 million, that's a gigantic number. And I guess around, I've heard people, on social media, people will say if someone loses election or wins election, that they'll leave the country. I mean, that's common talk I see. So, it's not that surprising. People actually, I would like to see if those people actually really did renounce their citizenship and become a citizen of another nation. That's what I kind of would like to see, that they actually went through and did it. I know some people, there was a story where a couple of people sought asylum in Canada after the 2016 election, and they were admitted because they were in fear. So I have heard of situations like that happening before.
Yeah, those are interesting stories again, and we can continue to talk on and on these topics. So we will probably wrap up for today. If you have nothing more to add, and we will continue our conversation in the coming days with more interesting stories and facts and our findings.
Oh yes, yeah, I will try to look into more specifics about the visa and return of that tomorrow, because there's definitely some things there I definitely want to look at myself and see as to why certain things are worded the way they are.
All right. I am just going to pick this call before we end this. Hello.
Hey.
Yeah.
One more time I got to do your deal.
Hey, sorry. Yeah, I just stepped out like, 1 minute. Tell me.
So, money, like we want to have about 3 rounds with that other guy. Rather than tomorrow, he's available, the other guy. He's again from India, offshore.
Okay.
He didn't have, can we talk?
Can you give me some 15 minutes? I'll be ready. Is it video or just audio?
Video.
Okay.
Google the,
Okay. Just 15 minutes.
so I'll put it like 11:10.
Sure, that works.
Okay. Okay, so look for the invite same as earlier.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. So more to come again, Walter. Thank you. Let's wrap up today, and I will explain this call and what is happening behind the scene in the coming episode. Bye for now.
So,